Good evening and welcome. It's Monday night, so here we are. It's ILFL Soccer Night. Good evening to you. With the Premier Division almost wrapped up, a lot of the action and focus of attention is on the First Division, and it's all going on, let me tell you. We've got highlights from a First Division game, Burdett and West End, to come in the second section of the show. But first, we're going to look at Sire versus Newark, the two teams propping up the Premier Division. But two teams going in different directions, it seems, of late. Newark in the ascendancy and Sire still struggling to get some sort of consistency together in this, their first season in the Premier Division. Two teams looking for 3 points to boost their confidence. We have the highlights of that game coming up for you right now. Sire versus Newark. And there it is, lots of goal mouth action. One silly mistake by the keeper, and it's all over. Newark 2-0. Good victory for Newark. Keeps their impressive run going. Good finish to the season for them. And Sire still can't figure out what's going wrong with their season, but there's always next season to look forward to. In the studio this evening, I'm pleased to say that Daniel Rowan is here with us. Good evening, Daniel.
Good evening.
And we've had a lot to say about Newark over the last few weeks, and we're glad you're here to answer a few questions about them. And let's start by saying congratulations on the turnaround that Newark have experienced this season. Did you see it coming?
In all honesty, we anticipated this increase. Yes, we've got quite a young team, so with it being their first season in senior football, we kind of expected them to pick up the results in the second half of the season. I
was speaking to you earlier before we started the show, and I was saying that I saw you guys earlier in the season against Cannon, and in that game. You guys were hungry, you were busy. In all honesty, you probably looked like the better team against Cannon. I saw you against Beaumont before where they were very busy, but then Beaumont, were very strong. And I always felt that you had something about yourself. So it's been a matter of time. You've seen this resurgence at the end of the season. Where are you looking to go now for next season?
We're looking to continue to build. I mean, the second half of the season, we only lost to Stepney and Tigers. And both of those were very close games. So I think when you compare our start to the second half of the season, we've grown immeasurably, just in terms of fitness, preparation, hard work. It's just all coming together now. So hopefully we can continue to grow.
Cameras, it's a great young team, and the future looks bright for Newark FC.
It does, and as we're discussing earlier on, I think in the next 5 years they'll probably have the best team going, to be honest. I mean, they're one of the few teams that have youngsters growing up, and you need that. You need the mix of the young and the experience together to build up and make sure you're there for the long term, really. So good on Newark, really.
Rash, you heard me say earlier about their game against you guys. I mean, I know it was one of the early victories that you had over them, but they were a busy team even at that stage of the season.
They are a really good team. The youth are doing really well, but I think what's different, what I've realised is, even looking at the highlights, I wasn't at the game, like saw Prince and Nana make a difference. With Prince being up forward and Nana controlling defence, it makes a huge difference. Gives the confidence to the youngers to go forward and play around. I think Prince makes a difference. So I think question would be to you, would you be using them again early in the season rather than at the second part of the season?
It's quite difficult to bring in mature players or senior players and not stifle the growth of the youngsters. So what we're trying to do is promote as many young players as possible, but then if we need to, we can bring in some of the older players to help shore up things and just add that little bit of experience, which I do think counts, particularly on grass pitches in the summer when it's quite heavy.
Now, after the Christmas break, the results showed. You can tell by the difference in the results. So you can tell because the teams are different. You've got a few new faces, older faces, and hence why it's not surprising you guys picking up points.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about Newark, throughout the season, how it's going to be really difficult for them beginning of the season, and you guys did have a tough time, but we also did realise that later on in the season they would do really well, and this is what we're seeing now, and doing really well now. It'd been interesting to see how you do in the next few years, definitely. And
credit to you. I mean, I think personally, there's a huge psychological advantage there where no matter what happens now, I think you've played all your games now this season, so no matter what happens now, you're going to finish above one of the big boys in Beaumont. I mean, psychologically, that's something you never envisaged at the beginning of the season, no matter where you finished.
No, it's a big plus for us. And like I said, on Sunday, every player that started was less than 20 years old. So it does bode well for the future that we can continue to grow and develop and hopefully really stake our claim within local football.
Well done. Well done to you, Daniel. And well done to Brick Lane as well. There were only 2 games in the Premier Division yesterday, and in the other match, Brick Lane managed to beat Stepney by 2-1, a result that I know by Stepney standards they will not be happy with, and now that kind of messes up their runners-up spot in the Prem, doesn't it?
What is interesting about that result is that Brick Lane beat Stepney. I know they actually deserved the win, but what puzzles me is that Brick Lane did not apply the same passion and desire when they played Tigers in the semi-final cup final, and a game which really obviously played for pride on Sunday, but I would have thought Brick Lane would have given a bit more effort on the semi-final of the Cup rather than the league itself.
It still shows that the scalp of Stepney is still a huge scalp to some teams.
Brick Lane is one of the dark horses we've been saying all season. They can actually beat anyone on the day. They've beaten big teams like obviously Stepney and Bromley during the season. So I'm not that surprised, because on the day they can actually beat. They are a good side. It's just certain weeks, a certain time, they don't apply themselves 100%, or they don't turn up, or in the semi-final they only turned up 2 minutes before kickoff, which was quite disappointing. But the result, I'm not surprised, because on the day they actually play good football, Bricklane.
Indeed, indeed. The Premier Division table does look like this, though, with the 2 games that were played yesterday. We can see now that what Newark have done for themselves. Remember, they spent a long time at the beginning of the season propping everybody up, and now are in a respectable and creditable 5th place with 18 points from 16 games. Stepney's defeat now puts them in 3rd place, and now it's all to play for to see if they can finish with that all-important runners-up spot. That's for pride. Sire still at the bottom of the table. Doesn't look like they're going to get away from there, but who knows? And I have to, because I haven't done it for a few weeks. Just a quick word on Beaumont, Rash. 15 games, 14 points, 7th place.
I think their focus is the cup itself. So the league it's more or less comfortable. I don't think they're worried about the league position. So I think it's more about the cup final.
Not worried about league position?
Not really, no, because still got a game, but we were comfortable.
Comfortable. Is that something, okay, maybe we've said too much about it throughout the season, but in all honesty, is this a transitional period for Beaumont, or is it just a bit of a blip this season, Cameras?
Beaumont have had the same problem for the past 2-3 years, where they can't get that consistency form going. They win 1, lose 2, win 3, draw 1, and it's a topsy-turvy season for them. And if they can win the cup, then that will give them motivation for next season for more silverware. And I think that's what they've got to look forward to now, really.
Looking forward, I mean, before we talk in earnest about the 1st Division, who do we think could come up and make a big impact in the Premier Division next season?
To be honest, I think the top 3, as things stand in the 1st Division, will come, and they'll be better than probably the bottom 4 or 5 out of the table there now. They'll add a lot of strength. They're big clubs as well. The 3 at the top now in West End, Taham, as Leytonstone. They're big clubs, big following, very, very professional in the outreach of football. So I think if they, obviously only 2 can come up, but if all 3 did come up, they'll add a lot of value and strength in that Premiership.
I'll allow you a quick response to that one, Rush.
Yes, I know we look at the results, but I'm not 100% sure about that, because what it is, they're playing against the weaker sides in Division 1. Hence, they're probably looking better than they are. Once they play against big boys, I think it'll be a different kettle of fish altogether.
Is that something that we could have said about Sire, for example?
Exactly. My next point was, like Sire, they were winning last season every week, basically, and this season they can't even win to save a life, basically.
Wow. Here it is. Food for thought and much to ponder on as we go into the break. And when we come back, we'll be talking more extensively about the 1st Division. So stay close to your TV, and we'll be back after this short break.
You are watching ILFL Soccer Nights.
Sponsored by Hawk and Eagle.